The last couple of years I had my biggest project ever. I built a cabin by the sea. It's nice to just sit there and look out at the water, but after a little while I found myself thinking, why am I not out there on the water? I need a boat. Ever since I was a kid I've been working with boats, or well, anything that floats, but I never actually owned one. Until now. I bought this 19-foot Askeladden from 2002, a slightly forgotten beauty that's been sitting on land for almost a decade. In this video I show you how I turned a $5,000 boat into a $8,000 boat, just by spending additional $5,000. Yep, that's boat mats. I removed 23 years of antifouling paint, or maybe my life. I repair hull damages, apply some fresh primer and new antifouling. Then I fix up the Teak floor several times since I did something stupid. I bring the canvas back to life, or maybe it already was alive. Then I install a boat stereo and do some few other upgrades, like these vents. I also install a brand new Garmin fish finder. I buff and polish the Gelcoat, sort out the electrical system using some homemade 3D printed parts, swap both trailers inside my garage, and then give some much needed attention to the engine. A classic Mercury 150 horsepower 2-stroke. It gets a new impeller,
No, it doesn't fit.
thermostat, gear oil, fuel filter and more. And I also refurbished the steering wheel using my own slightly unusual method. So with that, spin it. First thing I did was to remove all the old and worn out gear to get the boat ready for a good cleaning. It's always fun to see what comes along when you buy something used and unseen, like this oars. So, how was the boat? The cushions had holes, probably thanks to some ambitious seagulls, and instead of buying new ones I decided to reupholster them with some fresh fabric. And the seat? Yeah, that also. Under the seat there was a pool of water, and the Teak's caulking was cracked, trapping water underneath. That's a ticking bomb. The old Garmin fish finder had probably found its last fish. Luckily, it seemed like the Garmin had been installed with my future removal in mind. The glue on the other end wasn't. Disassembly technology has come a long way since the early 2000s. I won't be needing this external antenna with 10 meters cable anymore. Alright, I'm ready to start cleaning before the wheelwork begin. The trailer that came with the boat isn't exactly in perfect shape either. For one, it's missing the Jockey wheel. I used the jack instead. The main goal was to tilt the boat backwards, so that the water from the cleaning can drain out properly. Just some quick foaming and pressure washing before the real work began. Luckily for me, and unfortunately for my partner, I managed to fit it inside the garage. Which means someone's car is going to be cold or wet for the next few weeks. I started removing small labels. And the glue? Yeah, it was really gluing. Then comes the best part of the whole project, removing the old antifouling paint. Not just the stuff under the hull, but also the part someone had painted above the waterline. Maybe it was in case of waves. I started out with a sander, but quickly remembered I'm not a very patient person. So I went at it with a paint scraper instead. Not exactly my favorite tool either. There were plenty of things I'd rather be doing than this, like re-insulating the crawl space in my house, or weeding the garden under the snow. But one thing kept me going: finishing. This was a really good feeling, almost perfect, if it wasn't for a few stubborn antifouling paint chips stuck in my eye. So after spending a couple of days re-evaluating my life choices, most of the antifouling paint was finally off. But I wanted to be 100% sure that this job was done as well as humanly possible. So I mixed up some nasty marine cleaner, I applied it to the whole boat, or well, everything below the waterline of course. Then I let it sit overnight to really do its magic. Before taking the boat out for a rinse, I finally installed a new Jockey wheel on the trailer. I also gave Teak a proper clean using some floor cleaner and this scrubbing pad. It seemed to work pretty well. To pull out the 1000 kilo heavy trailer, I figured out that the most reasonable option was to use my homemade remote control car. What could possibly go wrong? You can see how I made this machine on this channel. I rinsed off the floor cleaner and removed whatever came loose with the marine cleaner. And most of it came off. Finally, I could see what the hole actually looked like. I started out with a Dremel, then some sandpaper, 40 grit, before I cleaned it with some acetone. And soon it was ready for some fiberglass filler. A quick mix with the hardener, and then it was just a race against time before it all turned to a stone. And while waiting for hardening and starting sanding, I fixed some exposed fiberglass using some Gelcoat putty. Then I sanded the fiberglass with some 240 grit sandpaper.
Ta-da! It was a quick and easy project and a really nice way of spending my weekend. So the next step now is to Alright, so finally it's time for adding some antifouling on this boat. The system I went for is made by Yacht and it's called Yacht Non-Stop Supreme. And it's a self-polishing antifouling. But first I need to add 2 layers of primer. This is the primer. It's a 2-component epoxy primer called Yacht Barrier. And it's a component A and component B. So in the first layer I'm gonna mix this with 3 parts component A with 1 part component B. And in the second layer I'm gonna do 2 parts component A and 1 part component B. So let's do it. It needs to be mixed a little bit. 1.5 liter is, and in total I should then have 2 liters. Half a liter of this one. And this is quite a sticky substance. The best tool I have. Up to 2 liters. It's easier to start with the component A and then fill with component B, since this is not liquid enough to measure it. So for applying the primer, I'm gonna use a simple paint roller and a brush. It's time for the second layer. And this time it's gonna be 2 parts of component A and 1 part component B. And that's exactly what's left in these 2 buckets.
To reach the spots where the boat rests on the rollers, I simply use a jack.
Okay. So this is a good day. I finally got some mail. Full kit of new zinc anode, and this is actual zinc, not aluminium. Much better. Dirt cheap marine stereo. So let's have a look. Okay. And a little surprise: spark plugs. So this is a Bluetooth stereo made by Vilex. It says 180 watts, but I guess it's more like 18 watts. Let's have a go. This is not some high-end speakers, but I guess it's a lot better than not having any speakers at all. So it's a kit containing of 2 speakers, but the amplifier can power 4 channels. And this amplifier, of course, comes with a hose clamp. Cable connections on one side, and it's also brackets on both sides for easily mounting. Control panel, and it can be mounted flush in the dashboard. Cut a hole and push it in. One cable going from the control panel to the amplifier. It's a nice little kit and quite easy to set up. It also comes with instructions. A new shower head and hose, a new thermostat and new seals, new vents with 3-inch connections, and this is stainless steel, quite expensive, so it's 2 of these. It's a new impeller, and I ordered the whole kit with the new housing and also new seals. This is the housing. A new main power switch, 275 amps, IP67. The old one in the boat is trash. A new circuit breaker or automatic fuse rated at 70 amps. Then it's the last package. And this is new decals for the engine. I think I'm gonna repaint the plastic cover and apply this. It also comes with instructions.
I figured I want to test the stereo before installing it in the boat.
White and white black is left channel, gray and gray black is right channel. Not sure if this clamp is big enough. Yeah, it's big enough. And then it's the negative. So now this should give 12 volts. I guess it's
connected.
For just a couple of $100, I would say that this kit seems like a really good deal. And if the speakers holds up for 5 to 8 years, I would call it a big win.
Then it was time to apply some antifouling, at least 2 coats minimum.
Okay, so the first coat is done and it's time for the second coat. Next up is to make the teak floor shine again. I guess it's a lot of years since this floor got some treatment the last time. So I went for this, a teak oil made by Ovatro.
And that turned out to be a very bad decision.
But first I'm gonna do some sanding. I have this Makita orbital sander and I'm gonna use a 120 grit paper.
Next, I clean the floor again with some floor cleaner.
Next step is just to clean it with a wet towel with just clean water.
And that also turned out to be quite stupid, because
12 hours later it's all dried up, but I can see that it's not perfect. So after doing some thinking, I'm not too impressed with my own sand job. The teak floor had a lot of high spots and low spots, and also the caulking was sticking up a bit, and I used a 120 grit paper. I don't think that's the right way to go at first. Therefore I'm gonna do some more sanding, and this time with some 40 grit paper, and then maybe a 60 or 80 before finishing with 120. Lesson learned, let's do it. 40 grit.
And this time I really thought that I had nailed it.
Finally, I finished with all the cleaning and sanding and cleaning and sanding and cleaning, and it's time for some more cleaning. And this time I went for this so-called rødsprit that's available in Norway. It's just some red alcohol, not so good to drink though. And the reason for using alcohol is of course that this will evaporate immediately after doing the cleaning, so that we can finish with the oil straight away.
It was actually pretty exciting to see how the floor turned out just by cleaning it.
I guess after 10 minutes this is all dried up. Time for some teak oil. So the instructions say first apply one layer, then before the first layer is dried, maybe after 10 to 20 minutes, apply a second coat, then go over the whole floor and removing all the excess oil with a dry cloth. I like this kind of brown color. So now around 10 minutes has passed and I'm gonna apply a second coat. This layer is of course going a lot faster. Let this soak in for around 15 to 20 minutes before I'm gonna remove all the excess oil. I'm just gonna use this one. The next step is to fix up the old boat cover. The fabric is a bit stiff, but the boat hasn't been used for several years and I don't think it has been cleaned for a lot of years. So I guess this sums it up. It's a creepy guy. Even before I got this cover back at home to see the condition and how filthy it was, I delivered it to a lady that helped me make some new windows.
And also I delivered all the cushions and seat for some new fabric.
So of course this will not look brand new again, but I hope a real deep clean and some treatment will give it a couple of years more. So let's do it. So first up I'm gonna do a quick cleaning with this Yacht textile power clean made by Jotun. Plan B is to do the cleaning job on the terrace. It's a much nicer surface. There is a lot of wind today,
So this turned out to be a rather time-consuming task. I applied the cleaner, let it sit for a few minutes, then scrubbed it with a brush before I rinsed it off with a pressure washer. I repeated the whole process, inside and out, on all parts. I borrowed our dog Max's leash and used it to hang the canvas up to dry overnight, ready for some waterproofing the next day. So it's the next day and we have rain. Next day and it's frozen. So things didn't exactly go as planned. But then there was the teak floor. How did that turn out?
So this is the result of the oil treatment, and as you can see there is some areas that's more grayish and I don't like it. And if you see here there is a big crack in the caulking, and of course this will work as a drain, trapping a lot of water underneath. So I'm gonna try to remove the old caulking, apply some new, and then do a last layer of teak oil.
The old caulking had turned rock solid, and the only way to remove it was to... So after cutting along both sides of the caulking, right up against the wood, I could snap the rest out.
It's really hard.
And to remove the sharp edges where the caulking had broken off, I brought out the Dremel again.
So I found this black marine sealant, and it should be made for this purpose.
I was pretty curious to see how this would turn out. You can spend quite a lot of caulking made specifically for this kind of job. I didn't, but honestly it looked really promising. Then it was on to the next thing. A piece of the teak near the steering position had came loose, and a part of the caulking was also missing.
Yeah, I will call that a win.
And finally, I fixed the caulking underneath where the seat was mounted.
So after 23 years on this boat, I guess the old plastic vent has done its purpose. Plastic is great and all in salt and marine environment. Oops.
This was a relatively straightforward process. The new stainless steel ones had the exact same dimensions.
It's the small things. Next step is to do some rubbing. I'm using this workhorse made by Makita 9237 CB, and it's just a beast. It's a 1200 watts machine. The best feature is the speed control. It doesn't matter if I apply a lot of force or not. The speed will always be constant. And here I have a wool pad made by Makita, and it's a really good pad for doing this kind of work on a boat. When it comes to choosing the right rubbing compound, it's of course 1,000 different products on the market. And in this case, I really got a good result with this dirt cheap boat rubbing from Amron. I always start by fluffing it up, and there is no need for some special equipment to fluffing this up and removing the old residue. I simply use this one. It's kind of special, but it's not very expensive. I think it's free. Like new. This is the first time, so I'm gonna put on quite a lot. And to start, I'm gonna set the speed not on 6 but on 1. Making sure the whole pad is soaked in rubbing compound. And I'm gonna increase the speed to 2, and that's equal to 900 RPM. And then I'm gonna increase it to 2.5 or around 1200 RPM. And normally I like to do this in the width of my shoulders. Before you clean the compound off, add a masking tape, and this way know exactly where we are finished and where to start next. You can see that the fibers are starting to be a bit stick together, and this has to be fluffy for it to cut properly. I'm gonna use my special tool again. Much better. And as you probably see, I do not push the disc flat on the boat. I'm holding it in a kind of angle. I always think that I should be able to put my thumb under here and also do it in a real slow speed, not like this. That's not correct. I guess a good way to think about it is that you have to align the speed of motion and the rotation speed so that the same spot on the cutting disc is almost cutting the same place twice, just with a little bit of overlap. And a good way to do it is to first cut in a horizontal direction and then do it vertical, and then at last one more time horizontal. So as you see, there is a lot of difference. And also remember, this is a cutting compound, not some wax. So the difference in the end will be much bigger than this. But now I have removed all the oxidation and I'm starting to get some mirror-like finish.
And then it was time for the base for the seat. I went at it with the grinder and sander, removing all the loose and worn out paint before giving it some new coats of primer and paint. Just a quick job. And luckily for you, I lost the videos of me grinding the teak floor for the 3rd time. I found out the hard way that the best teak oil for boats is the Ovatrol D1, not the D2 that I used previous. And me knowing that I had used the wrong type of teak oil, not the best one for boats, I couldn't sleep, so I had to do it for the third time. But this time I had a good feeling, and I also got to sleep the upfalling nights. The Ovatrol D1 is a lot better than the D2. It penetrates the hardwood a lot better than the D2, and it will last a lot longer. And with that in mind, I got peace. So as you see, the teak floor with the Ovatrol D1 turned out great. And the repair of the caulking also turned out great. So finally, all of the boring stuff is done, and it's time to do a little bit more of the fun stuff. I'm gonna install this boat stereo, Garmin, fish finder and GPS, and a bunch of other stuff. So I'm gonna start with installing the speakers in this boat. Of course, it's best if the speakers are directed to the main sitting position, same height as my ears. But in this case, I have some obstacles on both sides. It seems like I could install one here and one here. I guess on this side it will be okay, but on this side, if I cut a big hole here, then I guess I'm not going anywhere, because of course there is some cables on the back side here for the throttle and gear and so on. If I open this footwell, I will be able to see how much place there is behind here. And probably also the cables for the steering is going somewhere down in this line. So as you see, the steering cables is not going on the upside here, it's going down and behind this panel, but it seems like it's a little bit more further down. So my point is, always check on the backside before drilling big holes for speakers. And now I also can see if I have the actual depth needed for the speakers in the placement I want to have them. So my first plan was to mount the speakers in the center of this point, kind of in the middle of this area. But of course, the actual sound experience should be more important than the visual. So I'm gonna mount it a little bit further up. So I'm gonna do it easily like this. 15, half of 15, 1.5. Let's figure out the best place for the control panel. Maybe under the speed gauge. 1.5, maybe 4.2. The electrical system in this boat was an absolute mess. But if I wanted to get the boat on the water this season, something had to wait. So let's do a test.
Connected.
Then it was time to upgrade the Garmin fish finder and sat-nav. I went for the Echomap UHD2 72CV. The mounting base for the old one, and this is the new one. prevent the gel coat to crack like this, I always use a chamfer bit. As you see here, there is a slot for the cables to come out. And now it's time to install the transducer. The kit comes with a little template like this that you have to just easily cut with a scissor. The prop goes clockwise, and in that case the transducer should be placed on the right side of the boat. It has to be at least 38 centimeters from the prop to the placement of the transducer. When mounting the transducer, find a placement that don't have any fins or anything that makes bubbles when you are going forward. And if you're using the template should be placed like this, touching the side here. Make sure this is horizontal. So for drilling these two holes, I'm going to use this 3.5mm drill, and I'm going to drill them 18mm deep. Some marine sealant. And here the goal is to tighten the screws the exact amount so that the transducer can be pulled up if you crash into something without breaking it. That's good. Next step will be to get the actual cable through the hole here somewhere and to the actual Garmin unit. And of course I do not want to drill any bigger hole than actual necessary, so 10mm. When it comes to drilling the hole for the transducer's cable, there is of course several things to consider. I want the cable to come through over the waterline, in this case over this new fantastic blue antifouling paint. If you see here, I have a battery box. I can easily see the bottom of the battery box by this drain. I have taken a picture from the other side, and here you can see the battery box from the inside. Likewise, here is the well in front of the engine. There should be possible to get the cable through in the middle here. So let's have a go. I'm starting by drilling a pilot hole with this 3.5mm drill bit. Somewhere like here, in an angle. And also from down to up. Okay, so let's have a look from the other side. Yeah, there it is. So that's fine. Just making sure there is no knots on the cable, and there is not a knot. Okay. I'm not a big fan that the cable is going sideways, but it will not be possible to see under here from the side, so. The kit comes with some little clamps for fastening the cable. Then it's of course important that this hole is filled and watertight. So this seems kind of unnecessary. This is 15.5mm big, and my hole is 10mm. I don't want to drill a 50mm big hole just to get this inside the hole. I'm gonna cut this piece off and then mount it. Yep. Next step now is of course to get this cable all the way in the inside of the hole to the front. And as you may know, I have worked as an electrician for like 10 years, and the electricians also fish a lot. Not fish usually, but cables. And the best fishing tools for cables is a perfect electrician fishing rod. Now I can extend it 3 meters. There it is. Perfect. Best tool. First, the cable from the transducer, and then for the power,
bracket. Before tightening, I want to make sure that the cables are not too short or too long. So this will go on like just a little bit. Here is the other end of the power cable, and from the schematics it's only the black and red wire that's going to be used. And the red one also have a fuse holder and I guess a fuse inside. So this button should turn on the power for both the stereo and the fish finder. First test.
Connected.
I also bought a Mercury map from Trondheim to Tromsø. Let's install it. So here it is. So for me to activate the map on this SD card, I need to open the active Captain app and then do something. I need to give the map access to internet. Okay, I need to make an account and put it searching. If I am the owner, yes. A new software update is available. Download, now it's updating. And also I can see from the app that it has found the GT20 TM transducer. My map from Trondheim to Tromsø in Norway is active.
Then there was the trailer. Not exactly in great shape. The lights were dead, the wheel bearings were shot. The brakes were toast. And both of the handbrake and the coupling were broken. The only thing that actually worked was the Jockey wheel, which I had just replaced. So I went shopping. Not for parts, but for an entirely new trailer. The only problem now was how to get the boat off the old trailer and onto the new one inside my garage. I bought a pair of boat stands, you know, the kind of thing you buy just in case for later, and then 6 years down the line, when you actually need them once again, you already lent them out to someone you don't remember. Just kidding. Or am I? There was a bit of back and forth with the jack to get the old trailer out. I also had to let some air out of the tires to get enough clearance over the support wheels. And there it was. Kind of sketchy, I would say. But also, it looked kind of cool. There's not much that beats the feeling of a trailer that actually works. Where the winch, brakes and lights all do what they are supposed to do. That probably says something about my life, but still, I love the feeling. This could have gone real bad. I put the car in drive when it should of course be in reverse. So I figured it was best to just loosen the trailer and do it manually. Then it was the toilet. No, I mean the battery box. But it was all shit anyway. So the big and heavy battery was just laying inside the box, unfastened, and the lid for the battery box was made so that all the water was draining straight through the main power switch. Not the main circuit breaker, because the boat didn't have one. So I designed this box in Fusion 360, a box for the main power switch and a circuit breaker. And with this box, I get easy access to the new main switch and fuse, while keeping them protected from the elements. I took some measurements of the batteries and 3D printed some self-designed brackets. And then it was Easter. I quickly mounted the seat and the canvas before I drove out to the cabin. I was really looking forward to the first launch of the boat. But first I had to do some small things. I had to finish the battery box and also do some service on the engine. This is Max. He always manages to get his leash caught on something. Yeah? Then I gave the boat a thorough wash right before spilling gasoline all over it. No, of course, that's not gasoline. I gave the table a bit of new life with some wax. And then came the part I might have been looking forward to the most. Installing the cushions I had sent off to be reupholstered. The Garmin fish finder thought it was too shallow water in the driveway. Me and Max agreed, but before launching, I had to take care of the engine. I wasn't getting much pressure from the fuel pump, and the engine definitely wasn't happy about it. The weather wasn't exactly on my side either. I removed the fuel filter and fuel line, suspecting there was a lot of water in the system. And this didn't exactly look like gasoline. I suspected there was quite a lot of water in the fuel tank. And water is heavier than gasoline. So in theory, it should settle at the bottom of the tank. And of course, that's exactly where the fuel pickup line sits. So I figured I'd try using a vacuum pump to pull the water out. Then I could inspect it. After removing 4 liters, it looked like gasoline. Either way, I already bought a new fuel filter with a water separator. So I went ahead and installed that too. I replaced the fittings and used the rubber fuel hose all the way. Seemed like the easiest solution. Then I filled the fuel filter with some fresh gasoline. I noticed that the water stream for the Caulking was a bit weak, and I didn't know the condition of the impeller also, so I got it, but not that one. it was kind of stubborn. I disconnected the rubber house for the speedometer. It was really stiff, so I figured it was best to just cut it and give it a fresh start. And finally, I got to use the little workshop at the cabin for what I actually imagined it to be used for. Then it was time to take apart the whole water pump. Pretty straightforward. It's always a bit exciting to see what the impeller hiding inside actually looks like. Not that I would know. I haven't done this before. It wasn't too bad, I guess. The kit I bought is complete. It includes a new impeller, water pump housing, gaskets, and the little key that locks the impeller to the shaft. A small trick is to use a bit of grease to hold the key in place on the shaft during the assembly.
Oh, it doesn't fit. Wrong size.
It did fit. The kit also comes with a little tool for easy mounting the seal on the water pump housing, but it didn't do much of a difference, just use some grease on the seal. The old Zinc anodes had been painted over. Not a great idea. And of course, I could have cleaned them up easily, but since I wasn't sure if they were actual zinc or aluminium, I decided to replace them with some new ones I had already bought anyway. I decided it was best to first mount the rubber house onto the pipe inside the midsection, so that when I slid the gear housing into place, the two would meet properly and give it a tight seal. Then it was just a matter of tightening all the bolts back in place. The next step was changing the gear oil. Start by removing the bottom plug, then the two at the top to let the air in. That makes the draining go much faster. The bottom plug also have a magnet to catch any metal shavings. Luckily, there was little of that. Then I inserted the bottom screw before I filled it up with this vacuum pump. There is two holes on top. Fill it on the right one until it spills out on the left, and then insert the screws again. Since I didn't know the condition of the thermostat, I chose to sort that out as well. I took everything apart, removed the old seals and cleaned everything up using a knife and some alcohol before we assembled it with a new thermostat. And then the engine was ready for water. But there was one thing that I had to fix first. The steering wheel. So I started applying some paint remover and I let it sit in this bag for a couple of hours. I also figured I could fix the old cup holder thing. Then I was really looking forward to seeing the paint just fall off. But it didn't. It didn't do anything. So I got another idea. A rather special one.
All right.